Hello students and welcome back. Now this video is a review of last week's lesson. So if last week was a little blurry for you, hopefully this brings you back on track. Now before we start, I need you to make sure to number one, have a piece of paper and a pencil to write down notes on. Or if you have a printer or you have access to a printer, print out this worksheet and actually write on it. So let's go ahead and start. Last week we were learning about trigonometry, okay? And the one thing I told you to remember about trigonometry that was going to make you successful is that acronym, right? Remember I kept saying over and over again, SOHCAHTOA? That's what I'm talking about. You need to know. SOHCAHTOA. Now, SOHCAHTOA is an acronym. All the letters in this represent something, and if you're unsure about what they mean, watch last week's video and you're going to be caught up. As a refresher, remember the S in SOHCAHTOA represents sine. The C represents cosine, and the T represents tangent. Now, next to this S, we have an O and an H. What that basically means, it's just the ratio of the opposite over the hypotenuse. Next to the C, we have A over H, which represents the ratio of adjacent over hypotenuse. And next to the T, I have an O over an A, and it just represents the ratio of the opposite over adjacent. Now, if you look here on this side, they are asking us to find sine of A, sine of B, cosine of A, cosine of B, tangent of A, and tangent of B. And we're actually going to use this triangle here to find the values of these. Now, I am just going to go ahead and right off the bat find out what the sine of A, the cosine of A, and what the tangent of A is. Reason being is they're all asking us to find something with the angle A. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on just that for now. And we're going to label the triangle like we did last week with angle A in mind. So we're going to do it for all of the sides. So the easiest one to find first is the opposite, right? So the opposite in this example is 3. And then after that, I usually like to find the hypotenuse. Just identify your right angle, and the side across the right angle is always going to be your hypotenuse. And the side that is next to the angle, or just basically whatever's left over, is your adjacent. Now that you have this labeled, it's easy for you to answer these questions here. For the sine of A, again, remember, sine is the S one here. And sine equals to the opposite over the hypotenuse. So the ratio that is equal to the sine of A is just going to be 3 over 8. And that's it. Now, I wrote it like this because we don't have a lot of room. Just to let you know, whenever you see it like this, it's the same thing as writing 3 over 8. It's the same thing, it's just I didn't have space, so I wrote it like that. Now, for the cosine of A, cosine represents the C, the ka, which is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Based on the triangle that we labeled here, the adjacent is 5 and the hypotenuse is 8. So the ratio that you're going to write for this one is going to be 5 over 8. Same thing with the tangent. The tangent is just the opposite over the adjacent. So the ratio is going to be 3 over 5. And that's it. Now the next set of problems is asking us to find out, well, what's the sine of B? What's the cosine of B? And what's the tangent of B? All that means now is that this triangle that we have here is now going to have to be labeled with angle B. So again, since we're asked to find the sine, cosine, and tangent of angle B, we have to mark angle B. And the same thing again, just label the opposite first, because you can clearly see, look, the one opposite of angle B is just 5. I like to find the hypotenuse next. Find your right angle. The side directly across your hypotenuse is always going to be this. And the last one is your adjacent. It's the one that's next to your angle, or just whatever's left over. So now that we have labeled our triangle, we're going to use this information to find out, well, what's the sine of B, what's the cosine of B, and what's the tangent of B. Now, remember, sine of B means we want to find the opposite over the hypotenuse. So based on this triangle, the opposite is 5 and the hypotenuse is 8. So this ratio is just going to be 5/8. When we're asked to find the cosine of B, the cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. We said the adjacent was 3 and the hypotenuse was 8. So this one is just going to be 3/8. And lastly, the tangent of B is asking for the opposite over the adjacent. The opposite is 5 and the adjacent is 3. So this ratio is just going to be 5/3. This is actually a good example because you can see that based on whatever angle we're asked, our answer is going to be different. Yeah, we're both looking for the sine, but because we're asked for the sine of A here and the sine of B here, we have different answers. So that's the only thing you have to be careful about. The last thing I want to tell you and kind of remind you is this. Remember that when we have so, the sine is just, the sine is just representative of the opposite over the hypotenuse. The ka is just basically saying cosine equals to adjacent over hypotenuse. And the toa basically says that tangent is just the opposite over the adjacent. Now, your assignment is going to be, I want you to answer number 1, 2, and 3. You are going to show your work, and you're either going to, 1, scan your work and email it to me, or just take a picture of it and send me that picture through email. Regardless, your assignment is, I need to have this done and send a picture to receive credit. If I don't have a picture, then I cannot give you credit. If you have any questions, concerns, feel free to email me and I will get back to you as fast as I can. But this is the end of this video and I will see you